Whether or not you think this relates to you because you're like, I don't plan on building an ADU. I don't plan on doing any additional extra around my house, even though you have the land for it, let's say. It could still affect you, because what if your neighbor decides to put, 3 or 4, I mean, heck, even 5 or 6 ADUs in their backyard, and now turns it into like a high density situation?
California's state legislature has passed essentially, roughly 12 new laws that's going to come into effect in 2025. As your viewers are probably going to know, California will have a housing shortage crisis, and these laws are really in place to really streamline the ADU building process. Now, this new law essentially provides, as you mentioned, an amnesty. It really does encourage people who have currently unpermitted ADUs to basically go to the government and say, hey, I want to get this permitted in now.
I'm actually seeing a lot of ADUs in Mira Mesa, for example, right now, like tons. And
Mira Mesa is great. So these ADU laws are great in places where there's no HOA, right? Mira Mesa, a lot of the properties there have been built since the early 70s and 80s, right? And there's no
yeah,
existing HOA. So all you have to deal is with the city bureaucracy to get an ADU, right?
yeah.
Problematic is the laws that are passed doesn't address that. A lot of homeowners association also have the authority to say, no, we're not going to permit this, right? So there's also a concern that a lot of these laws may have lowered some of the strict criteria and making a lot of these, accessory dwelling units, as you mentioned, really close together, much higher density, which again puts a lot of strain on infrastructure. This is exactly what, the controversy is, right? And I've had clients call me from certain cities like Huntington Beach complaining about how even though California state has passed laws that are supposed to make it easier to pass, to get ADUs constructed, the city government is just not cooperating, right? And that has been the tension with all this, because the state governments, state legislatures, they want more housing, and they want to, tell the cities, you guys need to build more housing. However, people living in the city, people like us who lives in the city of San Diego, who vote for our city council. So real estate has also ultimately, for people who know real estate, is generational wealth. They pass it on each generation. It really comes down to homeowners to be active participants in our, local government, right?
Yeah.
Whether that's volunteering to be on the HOA board, whether it's also figuring out which candidates are going to be sitting on the city council that is not going to be promoting high density housing, or vice versa, if that's what you're promoting, right?